Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another. Oh, we'll see if we're recording. I think we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live virtual farm tour here at Chatsworth Farm, and it is a special Mother's Day edition. So we're going to be going around and checking out all of the farm mothers. So our cat, our ducks, and our geese, and our chickens, cows, and sheep. So we're going to be checking in on all the different farm mothers and seeing what they're doing with their babies. Some we're still waiting on them to have their babies. So for the sheep, for example. And we're going to start off with our kittens, which I have moved into a little bit of a more accessible spot so you can all see. These kittens are now 3 weeks old to the day, and I've just moved them into our feed shed here so we can take a look at them in the brighter light. The mother cat was just up here making sure that they were okay, and she was trying to move them back to their original little home. And I'm sure once we move away, she'll do that. She'll pick them up by the scruff of their neck, and she'll put them back in the place that she wants to. So they're just at the age where they're starting to identify that there are exciting and new things around them. They are exploring crawling a little bit. They're realizing that there are other things around them. And this cat here, this black one, isn't actually the mother. It's just one of our other cats. So he's very interested in them as well. And he gave them a little hiss. So usually the adult males or any of the younger cats aren't quite sure what the kittens are, and they don't have a real fondness for them. But you can see they're kind of moving around, exploring. Up until this point, they've been pretty stationary and haven't been doing very much at all. Kittens really don't get very active until 3 or 4 weeks of age, because up until that point, they're pretty much deaf and they're also blind. So it takes them a few weeks to develop those senses. And kittens are born between 3 to 4 ounces. So they're very tiny, but these kittens are getting quite big. So they're the litter of 5, and the mom has lots of milk for them. And because they're only 5, they get quite a lot. So they're quite chunky little things. They're also very loud. And even at this age, you're able to tell which are the males and which are the females. So calicos, as a general rule, are females, though there are occasionally females, or there are occasionally calicos that aren't females. Sometimes they can be males, but most of the time they will be females. And we find that orange cats, so all orange cats, seem to be males. We've never had an all orange cat that has been a female. So I think it's not quite as set in stone as with calicos, but we seem to find that that's the case. And then the little gray ones or the little tabby ones can kind of be either a male or a female. So they're just getting they're getting accustomed to the light. Up until this time, I wouldn't have wanted to take them outside because the light is just so much for their little eyes. But now they're getting to the point where it's all right, and I don't mind taking them out so much. And you can see they're crawling and exploring. And I know the mother's around here somewhere. And once they start meowing, they might bring her in. So kittens, for the most part, cats will have a litter of kittens between 1 and 9. That's kind of the average. But the largest recorded litter of kittens has been as big as 19. And so I think the largest litter of kittens that we've ever had from our mother cats has been around 10 or 12, so that's still pretty big. But I think 5 is a great number. So as I'm going through the tour today, let me know if you want me to check up on something in particular. We're going to focus on all the mothers and the babies as a celebration of Mother's Day. But if there's something else in particular you'd like to see, let me know. Or if you have any questions about what we're looking at today, please don't be afraid to put them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer those for you. So we have our kittens over here, and then we have Lizzie, who's hiding in the corner over there. And she quite likes the kittens. They're all very new. Anything that's a little bit smaller or miniature of what the animals are normally used to is always a bit odd or interesting. So they're getting quite used to that. But the kittens have calmed down now. They've just kind of settled into this new temporary home. And probably as soon as we leave, the mother will come back and she'll put her kittens back in the right place. So while the kittens take a couple of weeks to get to the point where they're able to move around on their own or kind of function without the mother's help as much, they'll still stay with their mom for quite a few months. We're going to go check on our chicks that just hatched and show you the comparison of other baby animals that are able to pretty much function without the help of a mother. We'll open up the gate. Here we go. Function without mothers pretty much after they've been hatched. But we do have the chicks with the hens. So over here to the side in a little crate, a little wired off crate, we have our hen who hatched out 7 chicks on Friday. So this hen is a first-time mother. This is the first time she's hatched out babies. And she was actually hatched out as a chick herself last year. So she has 7 total. And 6 of them are black with some white on them. And then the other one is this little yellow one over here. So even though she hatched out all of these eggs herself and she's going to be an excellent mother, and she is an excellent mother to them already, none of these chicks are genetically related to her at all. The eggs were laid by a few of my other hens, and I gave the eggs to her, and she was broody, so she wanted to hatch out some eggs. So you just give the hen the eggs, and they are more than happy and instinctually driven to hatch out the eggs, whether they are theirs or not. So the chicks will just kind of burrow themselves underneath the hen's feathers, and that helps keep them safe as well as keep them warm. And she's going to try and get me to go away as well. But there you go. There you can see the rest of them. And so the chicks really don't need any assistance as far as feeding or looking after themselves, other than the hen providing warmth and also some knowledge, because when you do have a mother, you are able to learn things a little bit more quickly than you are without one. So you can see the hen is pecking at the ground, and the hens are, or the chicks are copying what she's doing. So she's pecking at the grass and some of the grain that I've given her, and they follow and copy her. So she'll do that with the water and then the feed. And while the chicks are smaller like this, I don't need to move the crate so often because they won't be eating very much. But as they get older, I'll move this crate around every morning so they can get some nice fresh grass. And so the father of these chicks, so the rooster that fertilized all the eggs, is a Marron rooster. And I'll show you what makes the Marron breed specific. So I'll pick up one of the chicks. So whenever you're holding chicks like this, you have to be very firm but very gentle too, because if you're not firm enough, they'll kind of flap around and they can injure themselves. But if you're not gentle enough, you can accidentally just hold a little bit too tightly. So you always want to be careful when you're holding smaller animals like this, because they are very delicate, but they can take a little bit more grip than you might think. So the one thing I want to show you with the Marron chicks, and we'll set her down right there, is you can maybe see on the legs that they are feathered. So right up and down the legs here, they're tiny little, right now it's the down, but it'll turn into feathers. So right here, little feathered legs. So that's a trait that the Marron breed has. And so most of the chicks look like this because the rooster is a Marron, so it's one of the more predominant breed that's coming through in these chicks. Whereas that one little yellow one is a mix between a few breeds, the mother is, but I'm not quite sure what it'll turn out to be. It's always exciting to see what the chicks look like once they start to develop their feathers. And the chicks are able to hatch out of their egg by using their egg tooth. So this chick has already lost its egg tooth. But right on the tip of the beak, so right where that little lighter part is, there would have been a little bump. So just kind of a little raised bit. And so that's called the egg tooth, and that helps the chick pip all the way around the egg. So it makes a circle all the way around the bottom of the eggshell. And that's how it's able to hatch. So it's actually incredible the amount of strength it takes for such a little thing to be able to do that. And so all birds, whether it's a chicken or a robin, a duck or a goose, they all have little egg tooths. And once they're really 2 days old, they already lose it. So these chicks don't even have their egg tooth anymore. It's something that's only necessary for the first little bit of its life. So we'll give the chick back to the mom, and you can see her raise her feathers. Mother hens are excellent mothers. And it's really neat to be able to see that we had this hen hatch out herself here at our farm last year, and then she was able to hatch out babies as well. We have another hen who is sitting in our building, so where this hen was originally, and she's going to be hatching out her eggs hopefully on Monday. This hen was actually a little bit early. She was a day early with hatching her chicks. So they hatched on Friday instead of Saturday as they were supposed to, but a day or two early isn't a problem as long as the chicks are all healthy and happy, which they are. So the hen started out with 10 eggs. I gave her 10 eggs initially at the beginning of the hatching process. About 2 weeks into the process, I candled them, so you shine a bright light to the eggshell and you're able to see the development, whether or not it is fertilized or not. 2 of the eggs weren't fertilized, so I took those out. And then from the 10, 7 hatched, so that's a pretty good hatch rate. They were all fertilized, but sometimes during the process, those eggs may have been exposed to some cool temperatures, or the chick maybe wasn't positioned properly. So they didn't end up hatching, but 7 is still a great amount. The hens really don't help with the hatching process at all. They might kind of move the eggs around, but while the chicks are hatching, the hen doesn't do anything. She is pretty much just there to keep them warm at that point, and the chicks have to do it all by themselves. And one of the other things that's really fascinating about the poultry or the bird hatching process is that the hen has been sitting on the eggs for 21 days if it's a goose, 35 days if it's a duck, 28 days. They don't eat for that entire duration. They might get up and have a little bit of, especially when it's put right next to them. But when they're in the wild, and if they don't have a male to come and bring them food, which most birds don't, they don't eat anything. So when I picked this hen up to move her outside this morning, you can feel just how much of her condition she's lost, and that's because they put all of that energy into making sure that those eggs stay warm and secure for that time. So themselves at great risk to be able to hatch out their babies. But that's one of the trade-offs. So while they're not able to eat during the incubation time, they're able to move around and not have to worry about feeding their chicks from themselves once the chicks have hatched. Whereas with sheep or cattle, the mothers are able to kind of continue life as normal, just like people while being pregnant, but then it takes a lot more energy after those babies have been born. So they have to, they produce milk, so that takes up a lot of energy. So it's kind of the reverse with chickens and with other birds. Right now, the chicks and the hens are eating grass. They really enjoy the fresh grass. They also have the regular grain that we give our hens. It's something that we grow and grind ourselves, so it's just over here in this little dish. They don't eat very much right at the beginning, but as they get older, they'll start to eat more. And it's a mixture of wheat, peas, and flax. So that's ground up, and especially when it's ground, makes it very easy for the chicks to eat. But the hens and rest of the chickens and poultry enjoy it too. So you can see now it looks like there's not even any sign of any chicks around. They're all underneath the hen, staying warm and staying very safe. And tonight, because it is supposed to be a little bit colder, I'll put them inside so we don't have to worry about them with the cooler temperatures. But for the most part, and for the rest of the summer, they'll just stay in this crate, and I'll move it around throughout each morning. And the hen will take good care of them and make sure they're staying nice and warm. So we're going to go back to the cat and see if the mother came back to those kittens or if she moved them already. And then from there, we're going to go check out our sheep. We haven't started lambing yet, but our ewes are looking very pregnant. We also were able to shear them on Wednesday, so my brother did that. And if you're interested in seeing how a sheep is sheared, you can go check out our video from Wednesday and you can see that. I'm not going to do any talking in that one since it is quite a loud process, but you can see all the motions and how we set the sheep on their side or either they're behind so we can shear them. So we don't have the mother cat in here. I think she maybe took a break. Or she's moving her kittens back because now there are only 4. So she's busy moving her kittens back. And I thought she would do that fairly soon after. So probably by the time we come back and wrap up the tour, there will be 0 kittens left over there. We haven't made it out to the sheep for quite a few tours, so we're going to go look at them right now. It's a bit of a walk over, but I think it'll be worth it. Our ewes are going to be starting fairly soon, so they're going to be lambing. We like to lamb when the weather is nicer outside, when the grass is starting to grow. And we always try to get our sheep sheared right before they start lambing. It makes the whole process a lot easier for the lambs to nurse, so they don't have to navigate through all that wool. And it's a little bit more clean and hygienic for us, especially if we have to help the ewes with the lambing process. So we're gonna go check out the sheep, and especially shearing them just because it gets pretty warm during the summer, and if they were to have all that wool on, it's like having a really heavy winter coat, and it's not very comfortable for them. And the shearing process is just like getting a haircut. The clippers just run along the skin, and the wool just comes off, and we try to have it come off in one piece. So we'll see the sheep. So the sheep that still have all their wool on, those are our wethers. So those are the castrated males. And so they're not quite as, there's not quite a rush to get them done since they're not going to be having lambs. But the priority was on the ewes, so any of the sheep that are sheared that look a little bit more white, these are the ewes. And so they'll be having their lambs. And you can see just how pregnant they are. Our ewes typically have twins up to quadruplets sometimes, so as many as 4. And sometimes if we're really lucky, especially when you get a ewe that's sheared, you can see the lambs kick or move. So I'm not seeing any move. Oh, there's some movement. If you can see, it might be really tough on the video, but kind of right where my finger is, right about there, if you watch really carefully, you can see it move. So we're looking at the ewe breathing, but we can also see some movement that's kind of writhing and moving up and down. So that's the lamb's moving position or kicking a little bit. And she's being really good in letting me get very close. So we're going to watch her breathe. And then it'll also be a little bit of rolling movement. There we go. So it might be tough to tell, but we can see the lambs moving on the inside. And these ewes are getting very close. So they'll be lambing any day now. And the same principles go as far as what we look for when our ewes start to lambing. So the same things we look for when our cattle start calving. They kind of get a little bit restless. They start to make a nest of sorts. And their temperament or their attitude changes a little bit. Their udders also fill up a lot, so they start to produce the remainder of their milk. So we have some very pregnant looking sheep right now. But that's good. Whoa, we're gonna get her up again. And you can kind of see the lambs are more on her left-hand side than her right. So you can see the one side is quite a bit larger. So be sure to keep an eye on our Facebook and Instagram pages, because we will have some lamb pictures to post very soon. So the dogs join me here in the sheep pen. So these are the wethers. They are the castrated males. And you can see the females are at the point where they're not wanting the dog to be around. They're very protective. And so they tell the dog to get out of the way. Just like that. So just like all the other mothers, from the cattle to the chickens to the geese, all the mothers get very protective because they need to be able to protect their babies once they arrive, and they start to get far more aggressive towards unwanted things as they get closer to their babies being born. Right, Lizzie? This is our water trough that we use for our sheep, and this is our water trailer. So we're just hook this up to our Ranger and fill it at our hydrant and fill this up for them. Sheep don't drink as much as cattle, so we're able to fill this up one day and it'll last them for a few. So we don't need to have them in a pen that is near a water trough, since they don't drink as much. And we don't have as many sheep. There we go. So from the sheep, we are now going to go over to the geese, and we're going to check on them. Whoops. Having struggles with holding on to the camera. We're going to go check on the geese and take a look at them, and then from there we're going to go look at the cattle, since we haven't been out there for a number of tours. The wind isn't too bad today, so I think if we go out there, the sound quality will be pretty good. And it's been a long time since we've looked at the calves, and they've grown a lot since those first couple videos in March, so we're able to see the progress from the very small calves, practically newborns, to now some of them are just about 2 months old. And they won't be in their pen, their current pen, too much longer. Once the grass starts to grow a bit more, we'll separate the cows and calves and pair them together, so making sure that the right cows are with the right calves, and we'll move them to different pastures. So we'll have specific groups that we put those cows and calves into, and they will go to various pastures in and around Vermilion, and some even north of Manville and north of Innisfree. So we have some of the geese over here. These are most of the males, so the males don't really help with the incubation process in terms of sitting on the eggs, but they do keep guard, and they make sure that anything that comes near their females is dealt with. And then there are a few females out here who either haven't started to incubate their eggs, or they're just not ready to do that in terms of their maturity. This is one of the first females you see as you walk into the building. She's right at the front, and under her she has 14 duck eggs. So as I mentioned with the chicken before, where you're able to give her eggs that have been laid by other hens, you're also able to give them eggs that have been laid by other species or different breeds. Geese have also been known to try and incubate kittens. So if they find a litter of kittens that are nearby, their broody instinct is so strong that they'll take over that kitten litter and try and raise them. But you can also put other species eggs underneath. So we have 14 duck eggs under her. I have enough goose eggs that are being incubated at the moment, and I wanted to get some duck eggs. So since geese and ducks are very similar in terms of their behavior, putting the duck eggs under here is no problem. Since geese are very heavy, I would never put chicken eggs under geese just because the size difference is so drastic that the eggs most likely wouldn't manage or fare too well under the weight of a goose. But duck eggs are pretty similar, so I feel confident that everything's going to go well. I checked on these eggs earlier this morning, and the geese can be very protective of their nest, and they are very protective of their nest. So it takes a little bit of trust between the goose and a little bit of pain management, just because I'll show you how I do it very carefully. So you can see she's not very happy with what I'm doing right now. And earlier it took me a little bit longer. I sat here for about 5 minutes and just put my hand closer and closer each time so I could see how the eggs are doing under her. I put them under her 4 days ago and wanted to check on their development to make sure that either some are developing, or if none are, I'll go and replace them with some other eggs. So I pulled out the first 2, and one didn't look like anything was happening. The second, there was a possibility. Then I went in and I grabbed 3 more, and I took a look, and you could definitely see some development happening with those other 3, so that was a great sign. I wasn't going to bother pulling out the rest of the eggs. I just wanted to leave her be. But it was good to see. And if you're interested in knowing what eggs look like at the different stages of their development, just Google duck incubation chart. And if you look there, most of them will have it in increments. So it'll be the first day, the 5th day, the 8th day, things like that. So we're on day 4. And in comparison to the chart, it's pretty much textbook from what I'm looking at to what the chart showed. So there's a very small embryo starting to develop with some spider veins going on. But that's great to see. And geese take a long time, so it'll take quite a few, or ducks and geese take quite a few days to start to develop. So you're not going to start to see anything right away. But I'm glad that those eggs are starting to develop, since they have been waiting for the duck to do something with them for the past almost month. So you can put almost month-old eggs under a female, whether it's a duck, goose, or a chicken, and they will start to develop. You just have to make sure that they don't get too hot or too cold. So I'm glad that we're starting to see some duck eggs developing. So that's kind of a different type of a mother. But once those hatch out, fingers crossed, she will take care of them just as if they were her own goslings that she has laid and hatched. So then over in this other corner here, we have 2 more geese. They are sitting on goose eggs, and their stage of development is a little bit unknown. And then we have our other 3 over here. So same thing that I did earlier with that goose with the duck eggs. This goose all the way at the very back right over here, I just went and I slipped my hand under and I was checking on all her eggs. She had 2 that weren't fertilized, so I just pulled them out. It removes any chances of those eggs breaking and wrecking the chances for the other fertilized eggs. So just remove the eggs that aren't developing at all. These other 4 geese, so those other 2 in the corner and then these 2 right here, they're a little bit more aggressive towards me, so I'm not going to bother checking on their eggs. What will be, will be. But if I can tell that the goose is a little bit more receptive to me getting closer than she ordinarily would like, I'll just check on the eggs and make sure everything is doing okay. And you can see all the males and some of the other females have come in here. So they try to make sure that their females are protected and are staying safe. And we have some at the front too. And they'll ruffle their feathers like that. Outside of the nesting and the breeding season, the geese are very quiet and they're actually quite friendly. But when they get to this stage in the year, their temperament changes just a bit. But that happens with most of the animals. This is a very difficult time for a lot of them, very high stakes. So it's very important that they're not letting anything get too close that could harm their offspring, whether that's cats or geese or sheep. So, and I think we had a question earlier about where the cat was moving her kittens. So right where the kittens were earlier is not their original home. Actually, where they are currently is not their original home either. It's not where they were born. They were born in that goose house that we were just in. But I moved them over into our rooster house so the geese and the cats can stay separate, mostly for the safety of the goslings when they're hatched, as well as for the cats, just in case. So we want to make sure that everybody stays safe. So this is where I think the mother cat has moved them back. Oh, yes, she has. So this is where it's dark. This is where I wanted to move them out just so we could see them better. So the mother clearly hasn't moved all of them. She has moved just one. It's a lot of work, especially when the kittens get to this point. They're pretty heavy, so it takes a lot of energy for the mom to move them back. So I will help her with the rest at the end, but she will be able to do it herself if she once she takes a little bit of a break. But she has to jump over one of our wire fences. So it's a lot of effort to move such a big kitten at this point. So I'll help her with the rest of the move. It's just a lot easier to see them when they are outside of that building. It's a little dark in there. Now we've talked about the chicks, the cats, the geese, and those all have their mothers in, whether they were actually born, those babies were actually born to that mother, or they've been sort of integrated within that nest, whether or not those females have actually laid those eggs or actually had those babies themselves. Now we're going to look at sort of a different interspecies mother type relationship. So that's sort of what bottle babies are, and right now we have our bottle lamb Rosie, who I'll give some milk if I can pick her up. There we go. So oftentimes, many farms will have a bottle baby, whether that is a bottle lamb, a bottle calf. And there can be numerous reasons for why bottle babies come into the care of farmers. And in this reason for Rosie, her mother had twins, so Rosie is a twin, but the mom didn't have enough milk for both lambs. So our neighbor asked if we would be able to bottle feed her for him, just for the duration of the summer, and then she'll go back. And we had this with a few calves this year as well, but those calves were able to be placed with 2 cows. So they have some adopted mothers. Rosie is a hair sheep. She's a Mouflon black belly cross. Oh, there's a good stretch. And she's pretty much done her milk. She had a good amount this morning. But she really enjoys the sunshine. She's getting to the point where she can almost hop right out of her crate. And she's in the crate until our other ewes start having their lambs, so Rosie can be with some other babies. Hi, Lizzie. Rosie's pretty much done with milk for now. She's just excited to be out. And we'll take her with her as we go and check out the cattle. She'll stick very close to me, and if I have to pick her up, I'll just grab her in my other hand. Rosie? She'll occasionally nibble at it in case she wants more, but I think for right now she's done. Lambs don't drink a lot in one sitting, but they'll drink lots throughout the day, and we feed Rosie approximately 6 to 7 times a day. First thing in the morning, throughout the day, and then fairly late at night. And then she's able to go the night without being fed. Okay. We'll walk, and I'll try and keep the camera on Rosie because she does like to hop around as we're walking, and it's pretty neat to watch. You can really see the sheep traits come out in her, just the way she moves. It's very different from that of cattle or calves. You'll see her hop and kind of bound like deer do, just all 4 feet hit the ground at the same time. And she's getting a little bit further away from me each time. She was very good at the beginning, just walking very close by, which is good, making sure that she's not getting lost because she's very unfamiliar with this yard. Not only because she's a new addition, but also she's quite little. She also used to be quite nervous around the dog. The dog's quite big and intimidating for her. She was really good with the cats, but she's getting better every day. She's letting the dog get a bit closer and not as afraid of her as she was. So we're moving on over to where our cows are, cows and calves. They've been moved out of their bigger pen, which was our cornfield, since that was getting worked up and ready for planting this year. And they're now over in the field that's just off to the side. And everywhere where we have cattle, we have gates. And so every time we go through, we'll open up the gates and close them because cattle are very good at realizing when there's an open gate. Kind of the general rule is if you want the cattle to move somewhere by themselves, you can leave a gate open and they'll never go out, but if you don't want the cattle to go out and you accidentally leave a gate open, they'll find it in a couple of seconds. So when we're moving in and around the yard, we always want to make sure that if we open a gate, we shut it, whether that is one of the easy swinging ones or a wire gate with posts. The cattle were fed a little bit earlier today, so once the cows have been fed, they come down for water. And over here is our tire waterer, so it's made from a very big industrial machinery tire. So we have 200 head of cows, so we'll have 200 calves as well. And these are some of our older mature cows as well as the heifers. So we have various ages in here. Cattle who are just a year, so this is their first calf. And then we have some older cows who are 16 years plus. This is what their tire waterer looks like, so you can see it's filling. The water fills all the way up to the top. But because all the cows have been coming for a drink, and they can drink very quickly and they can drink a lot of water at once, it goes down quite quickly. So they'll all wait patiently. They all wait their turn for the most part. Cattle have a hierarchy. So there are cattle who are dominant over others. And so the less dominant ones will get pushed to the back. And the ones at the top will get to drink or eat first. This is one of my brother's cows right here. And she's keeping a close eye on Rosie and the dog. Rosie's very new to them. They haven't seen her before. So we're just going to keep a close eye on both the cows and the calves and Rosie to make sure that they're all behaving themselves. Once the cattle get exposed to the sheep again in the summer, it's not such a new thing anymore, but especially lambs and especially cattle that have never seen them before, it's always interesting for them. So this is one of the calves. This is one of our heifer calves, this one in the middle. And so she would have been born most likely in March, middle of March. So she's a good size already, so you can tell that she's one of the earlier calves that was born. And we have our cows and calves nursing, cows with nursing calves. So the calves will nurse on the cows for the rest of the summer. And as they get older, they can get very pushy with the cow. And you can see that the dog isn't wanted around here, even though they're very used to her. The cows still want to protect their calves, so they just give the dog a little bit of a push away. And Rosie's being really good. She's staying right close to me. She kind of realizes that all these cattle are quite big, so she's going to stay right by my side. This is one of the first calf heifers, so this is this mother's first baby. And it's a really good size steer calf. So steers are the castrated males. We have a few bull calves out here, but for the most part, since our herd is crossbred, so crosses between different breeds, We will castrate our males so we don't have too many bulls in our herd. And we're very selective about the ones that we keep as bull calves. As the calves get older, they start drinking more and more milk, but they will also start to eat more grass, so they'll supplement their feed intake with grass as they start to get a bit older and the grass starts to grow. So they'll gain about 3 pounds a day throughout the summer, and that'll increase as they get older too. So you can see all the cows are coming up and getting quite close to me. So they're not interested in me at all. They're interested in Rosie here. And she's being good and staying right behind me. The cattle and the sheep do get along fairly well together. But at the stage where everyone's just a bit more on high alert, things like little lambs are a bit more interesting or are something that they need to keep an eye on. So they can tell that she's not a predator in comparison to the dog. One of the cows actually went up and just sniffed her nose. And they were all right with it. Just like that. So the cows will most likely lick her rather than chase her away like they do the cattle. Or like they do the dog. So just like that. But we'll just watch her because she's pretty tiny and they're very big. And this is their first time being around her. And she's just going to go on the other side with the dog there, which is probably a very good place for her. So this is one of our crossbred cows. We saw her calf a little bit earlier. Cattle are very inquisitive and very curious. And they're very intelligent as well. And it doesn't really matter where you look on the farm, whether it's cattle or cats, sheep or chickens. All of them are excellent mothers. There will always be a few that maybe don't have the highest mothering skills. Some will take a little bit longer to develop that. But in general, they're all excellent mothers. And they all mother in a different way. Trying to show you both the lamb and the cattle at the same time. even though she's a different species, the way she acts is very familiar to the cattle. She's far more familiar or accepted than the dog or cats would be. So it's always interesting to see how the animals will interact or react with different kinds or different species. We'll go out and see the rest of the field where the cattle are, so you can kind of get an idea of where we feed them right now. It's not very different as to where they were before when we did our video tour on feeding them from the tractor, so very similar. They're just on the other side of the fence, really. So it's, even though our cattle are very familiar to us and are very used to us, and even the dog and cat and now the lamb, they're still really big animals and they can be unpredictable. So you do have to watch, and you always have to be careful when you're around them. But you can always gauge their reaction or their feeling towards you or something else that might be around. So that's always one thing to be mindful of when you're around large animals, is just see how they're reacting. It's kind of like a dog. If they're growling at you, or in the case of a cow or a horse, if they're kind of shying away from you and not looking too comfortable, you always want to try and give them their space. So, and that comes with a lot of practice. So we have been around cattle and sheep and all sorts of other farm animals for most of our lives. So it's something that's very familiar. So it's just like gauging people's reactions to something. So just watch when you're out with cattle, whether that's horses or dogs or even cats. So always give them their space if you feel that you're not comfortable. And they can sense your fear as well. So if you're a little bit nervous or timid around them, they're going to be nervous and timid around you. So here we have the cows and the calves. So the cows are on the more right-hand side. It's more the middle, but you can see most of the calves are up and along the left-hand side of the screen, right against the fence. So the cows and calves kind of separate at feeding time. The calves will nibble on the hay a little bit, but it's not their main food right now. So they just kind of go hang out together as a group, and the cows will go and eat themselves. A few calves will come and mingle with the cows, but you can really see a division as far as where the cows are and where the calves are. And we've got a beautiful blue sky today. And we'll walk up and check out some of the calves. We'll see if Hershey is on this side. So these calves were all born between May 24th and then the beginning of April. Most of them are the older calves. So you can hear the cows calling for their calves. They have a very specific moo. as the calves start to get a bit older, their color develops more. So this calf here is a kind of tan, and then he has a darker brown or black on his muzzle and around his eyes. The calves enjoy the sunshine just like you and I do. A lot of times they'll be sprawled out, flat on their side, getting in a good nap. Especially when the calves are sleeping like that, if we're out here, we do check on them just to make sure that they're not sick or not feeling well. So that's one of the important things to do, especially with young animals around, is to check them regularly. Changes in temperature and weather can play big factors into healthy calves versus unhealthy calves. So if there's ever a storm or lots of rain, we want to come out and check on the calves, make sure that they're not getting sick. So the cows are all still very interested in Rosie here, who's right by my side. And these cattle will be moved out in the next couple of weeks. We have a few pastures that we do rent that are from Ducks Unlimited, so they have special regulations and guidelines in place that are there for the protection of wildlife, so nesting wild ducks and geese as well as other songbirds. So animals or domesticated animals aren't able to go into their pastures until the 15th of July. So some of these cattle will be going there, but they'll be going to some other pastures in the meantime. So it's usually a big day when we put all the cattle in one of our closer pens. We make sure that we pair all the cows and calves off correctly. So we want to make sure that the right cow is with the right calf. And we're able to do that because we have them all with matching numbers that we all have listed down and we keep a record of. We make sure that none of them are sick before they go off to a different pasture. So we make sure that they're all nice and healthy. And then once they're moved to their different pastures, they get checked on regularly. So we'll make, usually it'll be every other day or every second day. And that'll be someone's job that day, is just making the rounds of the different pasture, making sure the gates are closed, making sure the animals are all where they're supposed to be. Everyone is in top condition. That no other cattle are in with ours, that ours aren't in with somebody else's. That their water is, that they have good access to water, because sometimes throughout the summer, depending on the year, it can dry up or their water source will get depleted. Giving them some salt and mineral. So there are a lot of steps to making sure that the cattle are all right, even when they are off the farm. So even though they're kind of out of sight, they're never out of mind. It's always important we check on them regularly. And most of them will leave the farm somewhere around the end of May, beginning of June. And then they won't come back to the farm until September, October, when we bring them home for the winter. So it's the whole process in reverse. Now, I don't know if anyone can see, but if you look down way at that giant puddle or pond, you can see the little white thing over there. Lizzie's down there and she's gone and taken a bath. So when she comes back, she'll be nice and filthy. There is one kind of remarkable thing about Lizzie, even though she can get quite muddy and look very filthy on occasions, especially when it rains or if it's a really hot day and she decides to go for a swim. She self-cleans very well. A lot of people ask if we give her a bath or something just to remove all that mud and filth, but she actually does it herself. We're not quite sure how, but she gets very clean after she looks quite dirty. But giving her a bath would be a little bit of a recurring thing. It would be a never-ending job if we had to wash her every time she went through a mud hole. It's actually a really lovely day out right now. It's not windy. It's starting to get warmer. This is one of our Hereford cross calves. So you can see the nice red coat and the white face. And the pink nose. So those are all distinctive looks when you're looking at an animal. You can tell it's a Hereford. So Lizzie's back and not super filthy, but pretty muddy, but I'm sure she feels great after that swim. Yeah, it's been a while since we came and looked at the cattle. Since they moved out to these bigger pastures, it's always kind of been a struggle with the weather for the most part, just to come out here, since it's very flat and there are not a lot of trees, so the wind can be quite harsh, especially for videos. And we're getting quite the following here too. That has nothing to do with me, it's the lamb. So you can see how much the calves have grown. It takes a little bit more of an effort to get right down to where the udder is on the cow. So they have to arch their back and kind of fit in there nicely. And you can see the resemblance on this cow and her calf right here. So she has that nice white on her head, and he does as well. He has a little bit more. But if you're out, you're able to tell that there's a resemblance going there. Some of our cows and calves look nothing alike. This calf right here, the little Hereford one, looks nothing like his mother. This calf looks like his sire, like his father, like the bull. And then if you take after their mother a bit more, so this Speckle Park calf, who belongs to this cow, also a Speckle Park cross in front of me. So when you cross cattle, you can get a variety of different things. It's sort of like breeding a golden retriever and a husky. You're going to get a surprise. You're not quite sure what it's going to look like, whether it's going to look more like a golden retriever or a husky. So in this case, the calf, the trait that was dominant was the coloring of the mother. Where in the case of that Hereford calf, the dominant trait was from the bull, was from the father. That's pretty much all for today's tour. I hope you all enjoyed our special Mother's Day edition. I'd like to wish a happy Mother's Day to all of those mothers out there, all of the mothers in our lives, especially our own mom. Happy Mother's Day to you. I hope everyone has been staying safe, has been enjoying the sunshine and the nice weather. We will see you on our next tour on Wednesday at 5:30. Have a wonderful Sunday and stay safe. Bye. I'll throw in a quick last thing before we go. Where is Hershey? He's somewhere out here. Usually when you're out looking for a calf, you'll never be able to find him. So I'll go out and find him and grab a picture of him. Maybe get a video. So I'll post that too. Thanks for watching, everyone.